Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Welcome back to Farmville. I'm not really sure about it. I do want to join this field and that field together, and then probably we'll end up joining all three fields down through there together, and this would be the end. That's why I kind of want to take off that corner there and turn it all into one field. I think that could work really well. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. Maybe I should just have one really long field all the way down through here and not dig into the hillside there. And I'll only do this as I buy more land. And the idea is I will always have 9 fields like we've got right now. So we've got 9 crops that we can harvest with the combine. We're not going to be doing any extra crops. We're not going to be doing anything with the specialist, what have been calls it, the specialist harvesters and that you need for these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crops. That was 9. It's 8 crops. We have 8 crops on here. 9 if you include grass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, right. Okay, so we have 8 crops, and I'm going to keep 8 crops. We will definitely keep 8 crops, and that's what we'll do. So as I expand and I buy more fields, I just kind of put some of these in together. So this would possibly end up being, well, I was kind of thinking, well, originally I was thinking like one long field down through here could be pretty good, but maybe it would end up being a piece here, and I dig out some of this. I'm not really sure if I should do that, though. That you might consider that to be a bit cheaty. And then we've got more fields up over here. So, I mean, yeah, maybe I could do that, but also maybe I could just have, like, 2 fields of each type of crop or something like that instead of joining a whole load of them together. Actually, tell me in the comments which you'd prefer. Do you want me to be joining lots of fields together and sticking with 8 fields and 8 crops? Or do you want me to be having more than 8 fields? Still the 8 crops, is just that we will spread it out a little bit more, and then we'll have more of each, essentially. I'm not quite sure how we will balance that as we start to expand, because I can't just keep going and like buying 8 fields all at once. I mean, I guess I could. Just have to save up for a little bit before I do it. It could kind of work. I don't really want it to. This is not really something I'm interested in doing. Sunflowers and beans and corn, I don't have a use for any of those crops, other than we just sell them. So whenever the best time to sell these crops is when we will sell them. And I think that, well, I know that beans is more like June, July, something like that. For sunflowers and also for corn, I think it's January. Like December, January is the best time to sell most things in the game. There's a few things that it's more February, March time. Honey is February, March, I think. And then you've got soybeans, which is June, July sort of time. So it does spread out a little bit, but a lot of crops, a huge amount of crops, the best time to sell them is either December or January. That's when you're going to get your best prices. Flour, I think, is also December, January. Let's leave that one tipping out. So we've done our harvest there already. And is it going to show on here? No. The canola right there, that we will be selling everything. That's December. Eggs and milk, doesn't matter. Flour right there, that's January 2000, that goes up to. So we'll get a decent chunk of money for all of our flour, which is really cool. I like that. And slurry right there, that's also January. It goes for 109. The moment's 101. So it's pretty close to the maximum sell price for that one. And then straw. So we want to actually go here. Straw, I've just been selling straight off the field. As we do it, we sell it and it's done. It'll go up to 140 in January. So I am tempted to hold it and sell all of our straw in January, because I reckon we've got enough room in our shed so I could go up there, load it up and sell it. So I might do that next year, but only if you say you want me to. This is entirely up to you, the viewer, for the straw. I did say originally that we were only going to be taking it off the field, but I would be quite happy to store that. Now that we've got that storage shed, and it's a really good storage shed. I like that storage shed. It's one of the better additions that Giants have put into the game. I think it's absolutely brilliant to have that automated way of doing it. We could store the straw in there, and then we could sell it all in January. Do you think that I should do that, or should I just continue to sell it straight off the field? I know technically I shouldn't really be taking straw off of several of these crops. It can be done. I know it can be done because I have done it myself, and I've seen it done in quite a few different places. I did read a little while ago that it's apparently quite common with maize, corn like this. In India, it is quite common to actually keep it as straw and bale it up and then use it as straw. I'm not quite sure what they use it for, whether it is for an animal feed or animal bedding, or kind of like barley. Barley straw is sort of used as a bit of both. Some people use barley straw for bedding and some people use it for feed. It's quite a soft straw, whereas wheat straw is very, very coarse and thick. And I don't personally know anyone that feeds wheat straw and only use it for bedding. They only use it for bedding instead. However, I'm sure there are some people that do actually use it for feed somewhere in the world. There's always an exception. If I say that something does not happen, you can be absolutely certain that someone somewhere will hold up their hand and go, yeah, except that, excuse me, yeah, we do that, we kind of do that, and then my absolute is proved to be wrong. But I've said that before many times myself anyway. If someone says to me in the comments, no farmer would ever, you can be pretty certain that within a few seconds of Google Foo, I have found a farmer who would, or does. And so there you have it. So does anybody actually use this type of straw for different things? I'd be interested to hear about that. But mainly, I want to know if you think that I should be saving the straw next year and selling it at the highest price in January, or if I should be keeping it, or if I should just be selling it straight off the field. Because straight off the field, I mean, it's not a huge amount of difference in price. Let's be honest, it really isn't. But there is some difference, so there is some additional money to be made. So it's not a huge amount of work to go and store it, because we've got the automated shed. So we just drop it there and then do a couple of trips backwards and forwards when we want to come and sell it in the winter. But like I said, I'm not going to do it this winter. I will wait and see what you all say, and then maybe we'll do it next winter. Right, so I've got this done. We had, I don't know what it was, 4,000 litres of sunflowers. We've got these 1,000 litres of corn, so we can bring this out over here. I'll turn that one off a second. Put that spout out. I'm just going to put that one there a minute, and right, that can stay there. Then I'm going to go over to this one. I'm going to take a quick look. We can break up our jobs that we're doing here at the moment. Okay, so that one did a few bits. I've got a little bit more that I need to do. So what we will do first is continue on around the field with the fertilizer. And I'll just do a pass around the field with this. I'm not quite sure how much has been done and how much has been missed, because we've already got some crop in the ground. There's one thing that I don't like about this game, is that once you've got crop grown in the field, it's pretty much impossible to see where you've been and where you haven't. So if you use the GPS works brilliantly, but that's not a base game thing. The base game, it is very, very, very difficult to see where you have been and where you haven't been in your fields, and I have never liked that aspect of this. Like, this crop, now that it's grown, I really don't have much idea where I'm going with this. I'm just going to run along the top end up here, and then I'll have a look at the map again and see. I know some of you said that I should try using the precision farming thing. I have had a look at it. Honestly, it's not for me. It seems like it's just something that's going to add a whole lot of extra work for us. And that's the kind of thing that I would like to try to avoid in this series, is just adding things in to make it take longer and make it more complicated unnecessarily. And that seems to be what the precision farming thing does. Like, I know it's good. It does have its merits, but I don't really think it's for me. Right, so I've done that bit. Fertilizer is needed over on those two. I'm not going to worry about them. This one will want herbicide across the field. And I'll tell you what we could do. We could actually unfold this, and we could spray a bit of herbicide around on this field while we're taking our break from doing combining. So if I bring you back around here, what I'm hoping is if I go once around the outside of this field with the sprayer arms, then the hired help should be able to do the rest of this field. Now, whether or not that will actually work remains to be seen. I do like the 25 kilometers an hour that we have with our sprayer. That does at least seem to be pretty reasonable. We'll go for a little bit of a jaunt up through here. And as soon as I get down to this bottom end, we can spin round. Well, we won't spin round. We will just carry on around the edge of the field. Like this. This is actually looking pretty good. I'm feeling positive about this. I'm feeling that maybe, just maybe, we will actually be able to have the hired help do what the hired help is supposed to do, which is its job. Like, it will just go and do the rest of the work. Now, I am aware that some of what I'm spraying here doesn't actually need spraying because we ploughed it, but we're not going to worry too much about that. The fields that are waiting for spring, I got two choices on those as far as I can see. What I could do is I could either just leave the fields as they are and then use the direct drill that we've got and plant them in the spring. Or, let me just bring up the weeds there a second. There we go. Okay, so I really don't have very much in the way of weeds here, do I? Right, let's put that going. It's going to go that way. Right, I'll leave that one going. Yeah, so I could leave these fields and then do them with the direct drill once we get to spring. Or I could do the plough the fields through the winter, because we've got that much faster plough now, so we could just kind of put it going and leave it. Although, actually, it's still going to be some work to do it, isn't it? Now then, sunflowers. The best time to sell sunflowers is March. Right, okay, well, that's fine. So sunflowers can wait until March. Soybeans are June by a long way. Corn is also June. Okay, colour me surprised. I didn't actually realise corn was June as well. So both of those will be in June, and then the soybeans and corn. The sunflowers will be in March. So just going to take these back and stick them into storage. So I've got a couple of crops. The wheat I'm keeping hold of for our chickens. The barley is already been fed to the chickens, so I'm not even keeping hold of any of that. I don't think I've got very much in the way of crops to sell in December and January. Not at the moment. We will have later on, although that being said, wheat and barley, that will all end up going into the mill. And it'll be turned into flour. So, I mean, we've got flour. That is to be sold in January. And, I mean, that's not a bad thing. The wheat and stuff, that also being sold in January, that's absolutely fine. Not the wheat, sorry, all of the flour, because we get a little bit more money when it's turned into flour. And I am still almost definitely certainly going to make a bakery. We've got that one chain that we will do. So we will make the flour, and then we will put it through a bakery and we'll run there. I have got... So we could either go for like just the standard bakery, which does take a little bit of time. But I have got an industrial bakery, which does things a whole lot faster. I think it's a bit more expensive, though. But I do think that might actually be worth the investment. because spending that little bit extra and then making sure that we turn all of our flour into bread, I think would be actually a pretty cool thing. The only downside to that is because this is supposed to be a realistic series. So yes, I know that there are some things where I'm asking for a bit of leeway, like the straw thing. You know, this is why I'm wondering if most of you will say, well, actually, no, we shouldn't save the straw, because we're getting all this extra straw, and most of this isn't feed value straw. Most of this is bedding at best, and some people wouldn't even have it for bedding. So because we've got this poorer quality straw that we're getting from these different crops, maybe we shouldn't be holding on to it until January to sell it then. Maybe we should just be selling it straight off the field. So, right, that's a realistic type approach. Whether we should sell it off the field or hold it, that's why I'm asking you. The other one is, it doesn't really matter what sort of bakery I get. Once I sell those crops, once I harvest the crops, we turn it into flour, and then we turn it into bread. Now, flour can keep for about 18 months. It's not brilliant. It's much better if you can store it as grain and then grind it up. If you're a prepper and you are storing food for a long time, you store grain. You store grains and you keep them dry. Once you've ground them into flour, you've got 12 to 18 months to use up your flour before it actually does go bad. It'll go moldy. You may be able to keep it a bit longer than that. You definitely won't be able to keep it very much longer than that. And I think, actually, ideally, you want to be using flour within 6 months. But, you know, we're kind of like using it within 6 months. Well, we're selling it within 6 months from harvest through to January. So I'm okay with what we're doing here with the mill, with the flour. Bread, however, once you bake the bread, if you put in a few additional ingredients, the very most you're going to be keeping that bread is a month. Right? You're not keeping it more than a month. So if I've got a bakery, should I be selling the bread rather than holding the bread until December, which is the absolute best time of the year to sell bread? You won't get more money than if you sell it in December. Should I be holding the bread until December and selling it? Or should I be selling the bread every month? Right, if I was to do bread, because your answer on this does actually decide whether or not I go for bread in the first place and bring in the bakery. If I get an overwhelming no, because we're trying to at least do this a bit realistically, we shouldn't be holding bread for an entire year before we sell it. If I get an overwhelming response of that and you think it should be sold every month, then we shouldn't get a bakery, because the bakery only becomes profitable if you sell at the good time of the year, compared to holding the flour or the wheat until the good time of the year. It's all dependent on selling at the good time of the year. Let me just quickly show you on here. If we go to the bread down here, see this scale difference here? Like, we get 5 grand for the bread. The flour right here is 2,000 at the best point for the flour. Now, you take in the running cost of these things is absolutely minimal. Like, it really is. It's hardly anything. So right here is 24 euros per month for the running cost. So it's nothing. So yes, there is a little bit, but it's, in the grand scheme of things, when you're selling a load of stuff, it really isn't anything at all. So we get 2,000 euros per 1,000 litres of flour, and we get that in December. If you go with bread, in December you get 5,400, and it takes 2 flour to make 1 bread. So 4,000 euros worth of flour becomes 5,500 worth of bread, which is an absolute fortune. However, if we sell it down here, that's 3,700 down there. That's a loss, because we can keep the flour until the best time of the year. But if you're saying that we can't realistically keep the bread for that amount of time, then these two, we're about breaking even on the bread. These two, we're losing on the bread. The rest of the year, we are making money on the bread. But to start with, we're definitely not. So it's kind of like, I think overall we would still be making some money on the bread, but we're going to be making a lot less money on the bread, and it makes me wonder whether or not it's actually worth doing. I think we would still make some profit. It depends how quickly it goes through. If I get the industrial bakery, and the mill is already pretty quick, everything would be turned into flour and then sold before we reach December. So before we even get to the good prices, we've already processed and sold everything. So we don't reach the good prices, which is kind of a drawback. That's not really what we want, is it? So we've got that choice right there. There's that decision to make. Do I or don't I? Do I get the bakery and sell bread every month like I'm doing with the milk and the eggs? Milk and the eggs, yes, I'm quite happy with that. Or, you know, I could get the bakery and we can hold the bread. We can say that we've got some additional ingredients in the bread, or we can just say, well, actually, yes, although the game is making it like that, we got an industrial bakery and we've really gone like the clappers in November and sold at the beginning of December. So, you know, the bread is fresh baked bread. And that's how we can sort of justify it, I think. So even though it does appear to be running, it's not actually running. All the bread is being made all at once. So we could word it like that, if you prefer. We can do that. It's a game after all, and we're here to have fun. So a bit of artistic license is perfectly acceptable. I'm curious, though. I'd like you to get into the comment section and give me your thoughts and feelings on this one, because I'm very interested to see which way you're going to go on this one. I know some of you would prefer that I don't have the bakery at all, and some of you are quite happy for me to have the bakery. The bakery would be the last of the production chain thing that we would go for if we're going to do it. So, yeah, at the moment, I don't know, and also, at the moment, we can't afford it, so we won't be doing that. I've already had a lot of pushback on the whole idea of me getting more loan or anything like that, so I have thrown that one out the window. We will not be getting any more loan. We are going to work with what we got, and we're going to try to pay off the loan, and we're also going to try to build up and expand the farm. I've gone and bought the other tractor that I wanted, so I've got a bigger tractor. That's absolutely fantastic. And we've got various other tools here. So bigger and better tools is definitely something that we want to work on, but that can just sort of happen as we go along. Now, I've got a bit more combining to go and do here, and then all of this is finished. The cornfield right there, that one has to be ploughed before the spring planting, and after corn, corn on the list, but yeah, the cornfield is the only one that requires ploughing, because the other crops that require ploughing are different crops. What are those crops? Let's have a look. Should tell me down here in the options. Just says plough fields periodically to keep yield high with the periodic ploughing. It doesn't actually tell me. I wonder if it'll tell me down here. Ploughing is needed after you harvested root crops. Ploughs can also create fields. Now this is the bit here. Using a plough will prevent weeds, which I knew about, from growing, and increase the yield for the next harvest. Now, does it only increase the yield? It says it's needed after the root crops, potatoes and sugar beet, and also corn, although corn's not a root crop. But, yeah, and it turns up the stones. Now, the bit that I'm confused about is it says that it increases the yield. That's the bit that doesn't actually make any sense to me. It does not make sense that it's claiming to increase the yield. Now, that will give us a yield deficit if we leave the needs to be ploughed bit on the cornfield. But other than that, yeah, I'm a little bit confused and confuddled on that one. I'm kind of thinking that any of the fields that require having spring planting, we just plough them up, because we got time during the winter to do that, and that means that well, it just make life a little bit easier. I mean, we've got two choices. We can either plow them or we can cultivate, because some of them require the row crop planter. Well, not all. There's two of them. It's only sunflowers and corn. They require the row crop planter. I can do beans with the row crop planter as well if I want to, but those have to be cultivated first. And in order to be able to cultivate them first, I have got to either run the cultivator over them, which means that I will then need to go back over with the herbicide sprayer later on and spray the herbicide, or I can plow the field, in which case I won't get any weeds coming up. And I kind of like that idea. So the corn up there, like that field, that we won't have any weeds coming up. This one here, the soybeans, let me just finish harvesting this a minute, because then we can sort of have a look at a few other bits. Well, the cornfield has sunflowers after it. No, I haven't actually finished this yet, but the cornfield has sunflowers coming after it. So, I mean, the corn's got to be ploughed, and then it'll have the sunflowers going into it with the row crop planter, which needs the field to be ploughed up anyway. It has to be. The other one is then the corn itself. That one follows the oats. So we could plough the oat field rather than cultivating it, and then that is, we're not going to have to worry about weeds coming up in that one. And then it's just the other few fields that are left. So wherever we put the soybeans and the sorghum, and that's it. There's 4 crops. No, there's 8 altogether. Soybeans, sorghum, sunflowers. Yeah, that's right, and oats. Oats is the other spring planted one. So the field that we're going to go and put the oats in, and also the field that we're going to put, yeah, the fields that we're going to put oats, sorghum, and soybeans. Those 3 fields, we can just leave them, and we can put in the we can direct drill those 3 fields, so we don't need to cultivate them or do anything, and then we can go over those fields with the herbicide sprayer later on. The herbicide sprayer is probably a faster option than going over it with a plow during the winter. If we go over it with the plow in the winter, we don't need to worry about doing anything to it later on. Also, if we apply fertilizer to the field straight away, then we go over it with a plow. Unfortunately, folks, that is all we have got time for today. A massive thank you to everybody who has earned their way into the Great Book of Names. To find out some more details about all the names coming past, please head into the description and click on the link to the Discord. It's a link to another video. The link is on the other video. Please also consider checking out the links there for Nitrado, who provide gaming servers for games like Farming Simulator, Minecraft, Ark, and several others. And there's also Fanatical, who will help support your gaming habit by providing you with cheap games and also giving me a small commission on anything that you buy using my link. If you've enjoyed this particular video, then please head down below and give us a like. And if you really enjoyed it, then please tell your friends all about me. Get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.